All right, thank you one more time. The program is still much alive here on independent television, and we are still looking at the COVID-19 issue, talking about, trying to analyze some efforts that the government of the day is putting in place to make sure that the effects of the COVID-19 is really not hard on Nigerians. Well, I've got two gentlemen here this morning for the first segment, and of course I have two other gentlemen, and we're going to be talking about a whole lot of issues, concerning the COVID-19. Well, we've got Professor Omokwa Adeleye, who's the Deputy Chairman, Medical Action Committee at the University of Benin Teaching Hospital. So you're welcome to this program this morning on ITV.
Thank you very much.
Yeah. It's going to be talking
about medical advisory.
Okay, medical advisory committee, not action committee. All right, so he's going to be talking from the professional perspective this morning, and we've got Barrister Olayiwola Afolabi, who is the public affairs analyst and also a notary public, who is going to be talking from the social perspective. Gentlemen, you're welcome to this program this morning on ITV. Now, the numbers are still counting, and am I even right to say the numbers are still counting? The way it is now, we have a total number of about 139 in the country, and we are told that about 2 deaths only and 9 are fully recovered. Now, Doctor, would you want to say with this, figures, having 2 deaths, against 139, is there really any cause for alarm as it is now?
Thank you very much. There is no cause for alarm, but there is cause for action. And more action. Action by everyone, the government, non-governmental organizations, communities, institutions, families, individuals. Be even more vigilant. The good thing is that Nigerians are active. There is something good about avoid the situation where the illness becomes so severe that we cannot cope. That's what we're trying to avoid. Ideally, cases should not be hospital. Ideally, they should, at the most, end up at home, so that way we can look out for recovery. But for those who may fall ill enough to require admission, hopefully the number will remain very small. Okay. Yes. Okay. Now,
Barrister Olayiwola Afolabi, looking at the whole COVID-19 issue from the social perspective, it seems that people are really not in tandem. There seems to be a lot of doubts in the minds of people. I don't know, what do you think is really responsible for it at this time?
Well, number one is the awareness. Like what you are showing, just ITV showing, many people are not aware. Go to the village, they don't even know what's going on. So that's why there is need for government institution to create awareness for the people. Many people know. In fact, when you tell COVID-19, they will even tell you, are you talking about Kogi in Kogi State? Maybe they don't know. So that's why there's good for awareness of the people. So if there's no awareness, go to many villages, even in some town in this state, many people are not even aware what's going on. So government to do much by creating awareness. I'm understanding this thing about set up a committee, but it is much. Let there be an action, awareness, television program in PG in all languages, so people be aware that this disease is real. But I was talking about the issue of government, maybe we'll talk about it. But to me, the government is not doing enough. Not only in those states, everywhere. Go to Rwanda. In Rwanda, the Rwanda government, they have oil. Those Nigeria, they have started the distribution of food to houses. CNN show it. Rwanda, out of the Nigeria, nothing. And you said we should stay at home, no food. And the poverty in the country is high. When there's no food, you stay at home. Landlord come and ask you for rent. So I understand the state government is trying by paying salary of workers quickly before he paid, but it was not to do much. The money is there. Look at government ration of rice, it will be up back to all the streets.
Yeah, Barrister, when you say the government is not doing enough, I think we also need to take into consideration our own peculiar circumstance. You just made mention of Rwanda. This is Nigeria. Rwanda is not Nigeria.
Nigeria will have a lot of money. The money is there. Let me tell you, local government has the capacity. You can distribute rice, and it will be up back to all the streets in your local government. You can do it. Even not only government, even some people you are selling water. Big men in the state, see them. This is the period. Don't sell water. Give the people water free. You also can contribute. Everybody, churches can do that. Look at I saw it online. A church in US. They give their members money. What happened to a church in Nigeria? No, they have not done that. All the churches, they are fed. It's not just to collect tithes. You are collecting tithes. Then what of the members who are paying the tithes? This is the period to cushion the effects. I live in Yoruba streets. Ask them. I said, nobody should pay for water. There are other big men in those states. This period, your water need to be free of charge.
All right, so that's your own contribution
Yes,
to
own contribution.
the fight against COVID-19.
Yes.
All right, let me come to Professor Adeleye. Now, the citing of isolation centers, it's quite worrisome to most citizens. I mean, for such a highly infectious disease, most people are of the opinion that this center should not be cited in locations where you have people living. Professionally, is it correct, or is it right to even have isolation centers where people stay, compared to somewhere like in the US, where we are told that a military warship had to be taken into the auction, and infected persons being catered for in that situation?
Thank you very much. Permit me to comment briefly on the social issues you just raised.
Yeah.
Remember, in my earlier comment, I made mention of the fact that people are angry. And people are angry, and rightly so. My colleague has elaborated on reasons why people are angry and why the government needs to respond. Let me make it very clear here that there is a need for government at the local government level, because that's the one that's closest to the grassroots, to go out and educate people using the local language. And I would love to see those local government areas covering urban areas to use pidgin English in addition, so that as many people as possible can be aware of just some basic piece of information. I'm representing the University of Benin Teaching Hospital here. We have done a huge lot. In fact, as I speak, we have covered not less than 30 different media activities in Edo State, electronic and otherwise. Print media, we have penetrated different parts of the main city and beyond. And we want to do more. If every hospital, if every institution would do the same, I believe that information will go around. Talking about support, I'm aware that some churches have done a lot already and are still doing more. And as we speak, churches are making contributions locally to their members and beyond their members. Some are doing it in the open media, and some may just be doing it privately, perhaps not to show, they give the impression that they are being arrogant or they want to show off. But there is an aspect which I want to emphasize, which no government can control. It is deep in our culture, it's deep in our conscience.
And what is that?
It is good neighborliness. And the word of God promotes that. Your neighbor is hungry, give to your neighbor. Even if the government gives rice to every house, some houses may not need it because you have enough. So sacrifice that to your neighbors and support people around you to be able to survive this harsh period. And I want to say this. Politicians who spend money distributing rice from house to house, from street to street, this is the time for you to show that you are genuinely interested in the welfare of the people.
But we have some politicians coming up distributing hand sanitizers and even trying to give arms to the poor.
Beautiful. Then do more. Do more. Do much more. I mean, there is no limit to which people can absorb and accept good gifts.
Okay. Now, Prof.
To your question.
Yeah.
You asked me about isolation
Centers, yeah.
Let's be very clear here. An isolation center is cited in a manner that it will not cause harm to the general public. for what distance and for how long can the virus survive? What is the risk to the nearest person? That's what is computed. When you do that, even when you stretch it so far, it's not more than a few meters, and there is no isolation center, at least within Edo State, that is less than 100 meters from the nearest living place, which is far in excess of what could cause harm. All those things have been taken into consideration. Even within the hospital arrangement, the isolation units are sited in such a way that between that place and the nearest patient, the distance is far in excess of what could possibly pose harm to people.
Okay.
So people should be rest assured that that's not the case. It doesn't have to be US. It doesn't have to be like any of, we work scientifically.
Yeah, because the reason why I had to raise this question, I actually got a call yesterday. Somebody called me that there's these talks making the round that Stella Obasanjo Hospital on Saple Road is likely going to be an isolation center. And the inhabitants of that area are not too okay. I mean, for the fact that it's a highly infectious disease.
Thank you. It's good to reassure people. Let's have some trust for our health system. The people who run the health system are highly educated people. They're not just lay people. They have conscience. They have homes too. They have families. You know, so the distance, I can assure you, is far more than sufficient to guarantee protection, to guarantee that they are not exposed to any harm.
Okay.
I've been there before.
Yeah.
It's not the entire hospital that's an isolation center. The part of it is a detached building, well away from even the main hospital, not to talk of the surrounding houses.
Okay.
So no cause for alarm.
Okay. Now, Barrister Olaiwola Afolabi, about 2 days ago, the president spoke to Nigerians, trying to look at some of the stimulus packages that the nation has for our citizens. Now, I don't know, what's your general overview?
To me, there's nothing in that speech. Nothing. Tell me, you are here. Have you felt what is the effect of that speech on you? Nothing.
No, you cannot say so.
Come on, let me speak. You ask me my question. That's my opinion. What I'm saying, we are talking about government to the people. Many people like me now, what I'm saying now, we understand now, the House of Reps say they deleted half of their salary. I want let us know where the money is going from. So, like I expect all the commissioner in the state, all the local government chairman, even the governor and the deputy governor, they should donate half of their salary. And there will be a committee set up to monitor that money. You can say, oh, this new building houses, we are going to, all the houses, you can cut the houses, we are going to give you half of the rice for that street. You can go to Popai. They will not know this money that the governor, deputy, speaker, all of them are voted. Will be monitoring it. That's how to feed government. Now you say, oh, we want to continue school feeding. Schools are, the parents say so, but schools are at home. So that's it. We want, the essence of government is to feed the impact. And tell me, who has fed the impact of that speech? Nobody.
Yeah, but I think the stimulus package are in stages. The first stage is for people that are down with the COVID-19. You are not infected,
I'm coming.
so you may not feel the impact immediately.
What I'm saying, we are seeing. It's not history of not only people. You are saying people should stay at home. They should stay at home. Then what are people to eat?
Yeah, that's what I said. I said the stimulus package is in stages. So the first stage is for those that are down with the sickness, with the disease. So for those that are, at home, maybe the next people. So it's possible that the president is going to give another.
We'll wait. But as for now, people. I understand people have been donating money. That money, let's see, there'll be a committee set up. Let's see how that money is going. It's not by somebody donating money. Now, one of the speech, in one of the speeches, he made mention that school feeding will continue. Where are the children? They are at home. Those are issues. So we want to not only, I'm not talking about the president, all the state governments, they should set up a committee. People are hungry. Like now, children, they know that there's COVID-19. They don't want to care. Father, I want to eat. So government at this time, this is the period Every citizen needs government.
Your own organization, the NBA, what are they doing?
We're still a committee. The NBA has a committee. We are senior lawyers. We donate money. We have done that yesterday. Like me, I won't mention it publicly, but I've done something. So and all our members of the bar, lawyers, we are still a committee to look into to go to other senior who have money to donate. Because now court will be closed. As a lawyer, that's our farm. You are close the farm. Now you can't go to the farm. Now even market will be closed. So on now, even all the union, you can do something. We're starting now. A committee will be set up now by the NBA chairman. That's what I'm saying.
Okay. Now, Professor Adile, let me come to you one more time, because you are the professional here as it relates to medical issues. Now, the president gave a speech, and some of the measures he gave has to do with medical measures, and that was when he actually directed state governors to nominate doctors, nurses to be part of the presidential task force on COVID-19. Now, there are talks making around that doctors seem not to be interested. I mean, for an association, I'm talking about the medical profession now, for such a body, one would have expected that there should be a level of some concern and dedication, most especially at this time of our national lives.
All right, thank you very much indeed. Let me make it clear here that as far as I know, the health system in Nigeria has responded very, very beautifully to the demand. Yes, there are hitches around there. You'll find out in every system. Those are mere exceptions. I'll tell you about University of Benin Teaching Hospital. Weeks ago, we went far enough to set up subsystems, teams covering different disciplinary areas. Nurses are there, doctors are there, and so on and so forth. Different specialties and subspecialties. A lot has gone in. You talked about the presidential directive. Long before the presidential directive, we already had a batch of 81 selected doctors and nurses and paramedics and several other professionals, pharmacists and co, already shortlisted and set aside to respond. That's apart from a core team that have been working hard, conducting training. We are bringing in equipment. We are ensuring that
was it to respond to treatment measures or preventive measures? Because the presidential address talked about treatment measures, that state governors should nominate doctors to be part of the presidential task force for treatment measures. So these doctors, are they part of the treatment measures or the preventive measures now?
Thank you. So at the state government level, I would rather that the state government official responds to that. But because I have some information I can tell you,
okay,
prevention and treatment go together. But right now what's going on is more of prevention. You remember that the governor himself and the deputy governor, commissioner of health, have at different times addressed the public, providing information, reassurance, and letting people know of the measures on ground to ensure that Edo State is not at great risk.
Okay.
I was talking about University of Benin Teaching Hospital. We have done the same thing. Like I told you earlier, we have covered essentially virtually all the media houses. As I speak here, we have people in EBS also, and on NTA. They are there to provide information to the general public and guide people as to what to do and what not to do, all to ensure safety. At this point, the most important thing is prevention, because we don't yet have many enough cases that we can say, okay, so doctors here are treating so number of patients. But we are ready. That is what preparedness is about. Okay. We are battle ready.
Okay. Now, Dr. Barrister Olaiwola Afolabi, on the social situation one more time. Nigerians are very doubtful, and some Nigerians are doubtful, I should say, and there seems to be this mistrust, for their leaders. Now, unlike in some other climes where they just give their trust to the government of the day, and this helps the government of the day a great deal. So why is it that Nigerians can't, at least for once, trust their government?
is a culture and it's from our leaders. When the leader amass so much money, you know, in abroad you can trace the account of your president. But in Nigeria, I can't do that. If you ask for the answer of your president, in fact, they can even arrest you. They can arrest you. What are you doing? You know, like now, some state government, like I said, some people have been donating money in other country. Like I mentioned Rwanda. The president came up and started that each state, the country that donating food items to the people. That's the government. Government to believe you. Like now, if I be a president, like now some people are donating money now, 2 million, 12 million, 4 billion. Let that be account of that money. This is where we are going. This is where this money is going to. People believe you. Like I said now, to me, I just came out strike, but they seem to do enough. Why? What I'm saying, a competition should be set up parallelly for those people at home. What I'm saying, the money is there. Money is in the country.
You cannot say the money. You are not the government officials.
Let me finish.
Yeah.
If government cannot do all, of course you can't give everybody money. But let that be a something that you have done. Like me this time around, all the chairman of all the chairmen in the Edo State, they should donate half of their salary. The government should do same. Deputy, speaker, all the commissioner, and that money can be this money. You can buy rice for the people. And from this money, so have been done. You cannot buy for all, but some people will benefit. That's what I'm saying. That's the area I'm talking about. Of course, the issue of I'm not a doctor, my brother or God doctor, but I'm talking about the social impact. We say people should stay at home, no work. Then what are they going to eat? That's where we need the government to come in. That's the area I'm talking about. A commission set up. Government cannot serve anybody, but they don't see this is what we have done.
But Barrister, you will recall that this clarion call from the government, like when the president was speaking 2 days ago, he actually, noted that this time it calls for cooperation of all. So when we keep on saying government, it seems that we are self-centered. I mean, we should expect that everybody should understand the situation of this time.
Yes, my brother or the doctor said something. Good brotherliness. But man, that's why they're in government. Why do you say you are in government if you can't help the people? That's why I'm in government. They are in government. They should plan how to relieve the body. As I said, they cannot settle everybody. But they don't see. You can bring 30 bag of trailer. Distribute for people. I think people see the effects. That's the area. I'm not talking about medically. I'm talking about social impact. You say people should stay at home. No work, no food. They should stay at home, watching television. That's the area government should come in. So at this time, in government, all the state chairmen, they should donate half of their salary.
All right, Barrister, you said that 1,000 times now. Professor Mokwa will still have it here and still looking at the preventive measures professionally. So what do you think should citizens be doing at this time?
Well, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
We have been saying this again and again, and we cannot say too much. Ensure that you stay at home. That's the biggest issue now. If you don't have to go out, stay at home. Of course, there is the challenge of having food. It's not only food, electricity. People need electricity to stay at home. Otherwise, it can be very boring and psychologically damaging. You need power to charge your phone, to charge to run your TV, and even money to buy fuel to fuel your generator. That is assuming you can even afford a generator. But please, as much as possible, let us still stay at home. Hopefully, this whole epidemic will be down in Nigeria and we'll have a healthy and happy country. But please stay at home.
All right.
If you must go out, go out. Secondly, wash your hands with soap and water. Soap your hand, every part of it, front and back, between your fingers, your thumbs, around your wrist. Be sure it's generally applied. If you don't have that at once and you have a hand sanitizer, immediately do the same and avoid being close to people, avoid clusters, avoid crowds, avoid gatherings. Let's maintain social distancing.
Okay. Now, Prof, talking about social distance, which is good, which a lot of people are really taking to, except if you go to the banks, because that has to do with money, so people really don't mind. Now, the season we are, going into is cold, season, the rainy season, and of course we know the attendants, health issues, ailments, common cold, cough, and all that. Now, how do we begin to know that, oh, this is not COVID-19, this is common cold? What are the symptoms? Because it seems that the symptoms are very, very similar.
I think you said it. The symptoms are quite similar.
Yeah.
So you cannot decide that what you have is COVID-19 or not COVID-19. The beauty of what is going on now is that the preventive measures we're using against COVID-19 are also measures that will help us fight against other viral infections, even bacterial infections that are airborne, droplet-borne in our environment. That's the beauty of it. So we even expect a general drop in many of these infections if we keep to the general guidelines that we give. As for differentiating, the only way you can do that is to have a laboratory test. Okay. And the person to decide on that laboratory test is your doctor. So you need to go to the hospital if you have cough, if you have fever, you have chest pain, you have difficulty in breathing, you must go to your doctor. The doctor can then determine that you need to be tested. It is when we have a positive test that we can now say this is due to COVID-19 virus.
Okay, what about the use of the infrared thermometer that we have institutions, organizations having at this time? I mean, you go to the bank, they point it at you and they read your temperature, they tell you for some the temperature is very high. I actually saw a lady yesterday that the bank attendant, maybe he's not trained enough. He told her that, look, it seems you have coronavirus. So is that object really enough to really determine?
Thank you very much. So it's a screening method. Okay. It's not a diagnostic method. It is to filter out those who are likely to have reasons to be further screened, then eventually tested for possible diagnosis. Remember, in our environment, we have so many causes of fever, including malaria and co. So the idea is at least identify people whom we need to pay a little more attention to, not to decide that if your temperature is high, then it's COVID-19. No, that's not the idea.
Okay. Now, Barrister Olaiwola, let's look at efforts one more time, though you seem not to be in support of the efforts so far, but I do think that to a very large extent, the Nigerian government has tried to do something the way it should be done now. As time goes on, it seems that more measures will come to combat COVID-19. Don't you think so?
Well, we'll wait and see. But to me, nothing much has been done by both federal, state government, and local government. Local government has even failed. You can't do it at all.
You cannot say.
I'm coming. Well, the only thing I want, there's a committee set up by state government. That there should be more, like the governor's speech yesterday, there should be more sanitation for the people in the villages. Many people don't even know. And as someone said COVID-19, they say, are you talking about Kogi State? They don't even know what you're talking about. So let that be in all, there be a jingle in all the vernacular, in Benin, even Hausa, Edo, in Esako. Let that be a stimulus so people understand that people should be told that need to regular wash of hands. It's important. The only time I was asking my friend, you see some family, critical family, that are more than 30. So what are they going to do? That's on the latter side. But on the most social note, there will be a regular sanitation program. As I've said, but it's more than that. When you say you are a government, what are you going to do with those people at home? Like some people, you see them go to Yaro and stay there area. Those people, those laborers, they will stay there the money. Nothing, they go. So there's government, not only government, even some people are very rich in this state can come and support. Because I am giving 10 million to the state government, and that money will be used to buy rice or beans or gari, but the price has gone up. So that a commission will be set up. That's what we need in the state now. So that people now feel the effect of the government.
Yeah, when you say committee, like Edo State here, Edo State sets up its own committee, at least the doctor.
Committee for lifting the poor. I'm talking about it. People should stay at home. Look, I'm giving an example of Rwanda. Rwanda did it. CNN show it. They commended the president. That's what we did, all we need.
Anyway, we'll just keep our fingers crossed. Now, Doctor, is there any other thing you have to tell us? How we should go about our normal lives at this period so that we don't catch up with the COVID-19?
Well, thank you very much. Let's keep in mind that COVID-19 is not meant to succeed. We are to defeat COVID-19, and as a people, we can, and we are already defeating it. Just make sure that you avoid crowded places, ensure that the little you can to bring in foodstuff, water, and basic necessities, you do, and stay at home. Keep your windows open, keep your doors open, keeping in mind too that there are security issues, and ensure social distancing, and then use the opportunity to build family ties and be happy. Let's pray and let's play our parts. Let's be good neighbors, supporting one another as a wonderful people of Edo State and Nigeria. Thank you.
Barrister?
Yeah, the only thing I want to say, those my daughter said, presidents, there are some people in Edo State, they are very rich. All those big men, they are bold. They are just selling it. You can get them free this time around. This is the things you can do to alleviate the people's plight. That's my contribution.
Okay.
Thanks so much.
All right, thank you so much. We still have two gentlemen. Thank you so much, gentlemen, for finding time to come on the program today. We still have Mr. Patrick Iholo, a social crusader, a human rights activist, and also we have Mr. Austin Odile, who is the Deputy Director of the National Orientation Agency here in Edo State. So perhaps he's going to be telling us government's efforts so far, because he's the government's employee here. So he's going to be telling us government's efforts so far in combating the COVID-19. Let's stay tuned.